Hello, and welcome back to the latest episode of It Had to Happen to People's podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Carter, and before we begin today's show, I want to take a few moments to just breathe. Will you breathe with me? Okay, we're going to go in through our nose and out through our mouth. Relax your shoulders in through your nose and out through your mouth. One more. In through your nose. Thank you for doing that with me. The reason that I wanted to just take a moment and breathe is because today's episode is a bit heavy. I'm not going to lie. So I do want to give you a heads up if you're looking for a little inspiration. I may have some on the back end of this episode, but the reality is this is more informational about something that has lived rent-free in my head for a little bit over 2 years now. So one, a lot of cold cases or a lot of cases where I feel connected to the individual or individuals involved in the case. Sometimes they live rent free in my head, and I'll give you some examples. First, like Joan Benet Ramsey. When I was a kid, her case happened, and I felt connected to it because she was a kid, I was a kid. This was crazy. And then fast forward, Casey Anthony case lived rent free in my head for years. I actually signed an eviction notice when Peacock did that documentary on the Casey Anthony case, and I realized I knew the answer all along, and so did most of you. So I evicted that one from my head, but it lived rent free in my head for a very, very long time. What a interesting documentary, I'll say that. And then there are more modern cases, right? There's the Kanika Jenkins case in Chicago, and the Kendrick Johnson case. Even my own cousin, Arkenyela Hoskins, her case, she was shot execution style about 5 minutes from our grandmother's house, and she was only 16 years old. That lives rent free in my head because it's unsolved. Like what? Or even the Shanquella Robinson case, who went on a trip with 6 of her homies. At least she thought they were homies. They were definitely not her friends because someone or all of them participated in her being unalived on what's supposed to be a relaxing trip. Anyway, in each of these cases, like, violence was very intentional by the perpetrator or perpetrators. But then there's this other type of case. It's the case of the Slauson Six. Now, if you haven't heard of the Slauson Six, it is a case that involved a high-speed collision at speeds of upward to 130 miles per hour. In August of 2023, if I'm not mistaken, Nicole Lorraine Linton was working as a travel nurse in Los Angeles, where I lived at the time. And one afternoon she was driving, doesn't matter where to or where from, but she was driving approximately 8 minutes from where I lived. And then about 2 minutes from where I was at the time of the accident with my child. And she drove her car through a red light at 130 miles per hour. At the time of impact, cars exploded. I do want to kind of take you there emotionally, so I'm going to share a video clip of the accident so that you can kind of join me in this emotional space. Okay? So on the left, as you can see, at the time of impact, multiple cars exploded. That is the debris of after the accident. It was said that bystanders were able to hear her screaming at the time of the accident, like she was yelling on the phone with someone. There were talks about, maybe she was having a domestic a conversation with a partner and it got heated and this was a suicide attempt. Whatever it was, at first glance, this is what went through my head. There was an accident. She drove. They died. She jailed. Like, open and shut. Like, no need to call Olivia Benson, to the scene because this jail report writes itself, right? But then I also felt a little tug in my bones that there had to be more to this case other than a person driving a car at 130 miles per hour on a downhill. And I'm not talking like a cute little no, this is a LA hill. It go like this. You can't, I'm not even, okay, there we go. I'm centered. It go like this. So you're going like this at 130. Yeah, I felt there was more to the story. So I wanted to share what I discovered. And where, yeah, just share more information about that particular day. So at the time of the accident, the driver, Nicole Linton, was 37 years old, which is my current age, which is wild. Prior to this accident, she was a grinder like me. I looked at photos of her. She was a natural hair girly, but she was a straight natural hair girly, which I am super jealous because those are goals. Who's gonna straighten all this? Not me. But she was a go-getter. She set her mind to something. She worked really, really hard to accomplish it. And she put herself in a lot of high stress moments or environments, which for a lot of us, that's normal. High stress is it's almost where we thrive, right? Like you put me in the jungle, baby, I'm coming out king of the jungle. Like that's kind of our mentality, especially as people who are underrepresented in a lot of spaces. Like the grind is the grind. Like that's just kind of what we do, and we don't complain about it. But what I learned through her website, a website that her sisters put up on NicoleLyntonStory.com, is that she, about a year or so before the accident, she was hospitalized and medicated for a mental episode. Now, this mental episode included epilepsy symptoms as well as manic-like behaviors. Now, I'll be honest, I kind of understand manic a little better than I do epilepsy, so I had to dig a little deeper. And this is what I found. This is what I learned. Excuse me. So epilepsy is a brain disorder characterized by recurrent seizures, which are temporary disruptions of the brain activity caused by misfiring of a nerve. Symptoms vary widely and can include jerking, stiffening of the body, loss of consciousness, confusion, or strange sensations. And there's more about it, but I think that was enough to help me understand what happens to the human body at the time of an epilepsy episode, right? And it's important to note that epilepsy, can be managed with medication, but there is no cure for it. What I also learned is at the time of the accident, or just moments before the accident, Nicole was on the phone with her sister. She has two sisters, just like me. She has two sisters, and she was on the phone with one of them, and that sister must have, her red flags went up for something, right? There were moments that made her believe that her sister was having another mental episode. And I can imagine especially if it's a manic-like behavior, you get people talking normal, but then a manic-like behavior is like, oh, I got to do this, and I need to go to the store, and I need to go, did I leave the store alone? And then I need to do, like, there's very quick words and, unstable thoughts happening during a manic episode. So I can imagine being on the phone with my sister and she's having a moment. I'm like, yo, something's not right. And as sisters, what do we do when another sister is having a moment that is right? Whether it's as, deep as a manic episode or as shallow as she asked to borrow $250 for a pair of earrings. We call the other sister, which is exactly what happened in this case. So 2 minutes before the impact of that accident, sister one called sister two to talk about sister three, letting her know, like, hey, I think Nicole is having another moment. And what they didn't know during that conversation that moment, that mental health episode that they hypothesized that their sister was having, was actually having an impact on 6 beautiful unexpected lives. There were 6 people who was unalived during that accident. Natasia Lewis, Lynette Noble, Asheray Ryan, who was the mother of almost 1-year-old Alonzo Quintero. She was also the fiance of Reynald Lester and the mother of their unborn child, Armani. 6 lives were impacted that day. But then there's a 7th. And I understand that from where I sit, it's a lot easier for me to be empathetic and have grace for Nicole than it would be for the families of the 6, right? I totally understand that, and I don't take that lightly. And I don't want this conversation to come off as anything other than empathetic to everyone involved. That day that it happened, I must have hugged my daughter so tight. Like because we were right there. If you go back and listen to prior episodes of It Had to Happen, where I talk about this accident, it was audio only and it's on Spotify. I talk about how close we were in proximity to that accident. I talk about how that one inkling in my spirit that said, don't go straight down Slauson and take a left on Overhill. Just weave through the neighborhood, avoid the traffic. And I did that. And at the time of the accident, do you hear me? So I understand that me having grace for Nicole, and having empathy for Nicole as well as for the 6 is easier for me because I wasn't directly impacted. I was emotionally impacted because I'm an empath. I'm always emotionally impacted. But yeah, I know it's easier for me to say that. So I don't want anyone who was directly related to any of the 6 people who were unalived at that time to think that I am being anything other than just a child of God in this moment. And I continue to read NicoleLintonStory.com. One of the things that her sisters and news articles reported was that once Nicole came to, she was very, very, very remorseful for what had happened. Now, as I mentioned, there were bystanders who said, she was screaming, she was having a moment, and she was on the phone, she was loud, music was loud. Like, there are bystanders who were saying all these things. And I want to paint a few pictures. First picture, worst case scenario, this was a suicide attempt, a failed suicide attempt. And my brain, even on that day, my brain went to, oh my gosh, if she just tried to unalive herself and she failed, she now has to live with the fact that not only did she not succeed at the mission, but she killed 6 people. 6 people, including a kid who's almost 1 year old and his little baby sister or brother. Like, you have to live with that. And my heart started to break because where she is now, I'm sure she'll get the medication she needs because the jail systems are so awesome. She'll get enough of what she needs to feel more. Like, because what I learned through reading this website and just doing my own research is, at some point after the epilepsy seizure, you come to reality. As I mentioned, it had been a year since she had one of these moments. So you come back to your current reality, and imagine having a moment and you black out. Because this is the story that her sisters are painting for the people who read this website. She blacked out. She had a seizure. Her body stiffened up, and she just so happened to hit the gas instead of the brake. She blacked out. Now she's awake. Imagine what that feels like to know that your job is a nurse and you have decided to be a travel nurse, which means you want to go all over the country, healing people, helping people, not hurting people. And here you are in this moment where you hurt people. You didn't just hurt the 6 people. You hurt everyone attached to them. They were young. Nobody in that accident was over the age of 38. Not even the driver. I think the oldest person was 38 years old. So from 38 to fetus, you hurt people. Not to mention their families. So I immediately felt empathy for Nicole, because she's still here and she has to deal with whether intentional or unintentional, she has to deal with the consequences of those actions. She has to. There's no way around it. Which kind of segues me to what this episode is really about. And it is spiritual warfare. I want to go deeper about that because I don't think I've done enough research, biblical research, to really speak on it today. But this makes me think of that was a spiritual warfare moment. She lost the fight in that moment. If you are a believer, like I am, look, Jesus riding with me wherever we go. Lace up your boots, put on your backpack. It's time to ride. I don't want anyone to think that I'm for Nicole. I don't know that lady. I don't know her. I don't know her sisters. I ain't never met her mama. She ain't never been my nurse. I don't know that lady. So I don't want you to think I'm riding for her. Listen, I only ride with God. I'm on whatever he on. But this has been heavy. I'm not kidding. Heavy on my heart since the day it happened. And I've always wondered, like, what happened? Like, I would love to speak to her, off camera, no record, just like yeah. I'm on whatever God on all day, every day. What we doing? Who want it? That's what I'm on. So please don't think I'm just, trying to give this lady a pass because she had natural hair and she was a black. Nope. I'm not doing that. But I'm on whatever God on, and my spirit just like, something's not right. This is a spiritual warfare moment. If you are a believer like I am, and you read your Bible like I do, you know that spiritual warfare has been around since the beginning of time. And it doesn't always look like what we think it should look like. And in this case, it looks exactly like we read about in the Bible. I remember, listen, I'm not so in my Bible that I can quote scriptures and, call them out. I do know Matthew 28 because I had my moment with Matthew 28, but I don't know everything I know what I read and I retained what I read. I can't point you in a direction, but I can tell you what I read. Okay. And I remember reading a story about, this man who had this evil spirit in him, or these demons that took over his body. And Jesus spoke to those demons and told them to get out of that man. And the demons recognized who he was. They was like, it's you, Jesus. And Jesus was like, no, come out of there. And the demons told Jesus, just put us in the pigs. And it was hundreds of pigs, if I'm not mistaken. So the demons left the one human body and was able to go into multiple pigs, and they jumped off a cliff and drowned themselves. The point I'm making is mental episodes. Humans have done a great job of trying to manage those with medicine and understanding, the effects of these. But I feel it in my bones that this is a spiritual warfare. Depression is a spiritual warfare. Anxiety, which I have struggled with for years, not anymore, because I know better. But it's all spiritual. Manic episodes is spiritual. And I'm not saying this lady didn't believe in God or her family didn't believe in God. She didn't pray. I'm not saying it, but what I am saying is these are spiritual battles. And while medicine is great and, doctors are great, love our doctors, we also got to figure out how we deal with these spiritual battles beyond medical intervention. I'm not saying this could have been prevented if she went to church every day. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that if she prayed more, she wouldn't have mental episodes. I'm not saying that. I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't know. But I do know that that was a spiritual moment. That was a spiritual battle. And the enemy won 7 lives, at least 7 lives that day. Nicole is the only one that has the opportunity to take back what he took from her. Today, spiritual battles look totally different. And think about spiritual battles. It's like, you remember as a kid, you played whack-a-mole? You went to Chuck E. Cheese, and they had the little stick with the big blob at the end. The goal was to bing, bop, bing, bop, bop. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar. But the goal was to, one pop up, pop it. Another one pop up, pop it. Spiritual battles are just like whack-a-mole. As soon as you bop one, another one, pew, pops right back up. As soon as you bop, the spiritual battle of, finances, up pops loss of a loved one. As soon as you deal with your emotions and you come back to center and you figure out a way to live in this new reality without that person that you love, another one pops up. The people on the job acting like you ain't who you are. It never ends. And I was just telling my friend girl, because me and my friends talk about God all the time, that in order to defeat the enemy, we have to know him. And listen, don't get me wrong, I love a good prosperity gospel because we on that too. You feel me? But at the same time, we have to be able to understand who the enemy is in order to defeat him. Circling back to the topic at hand, which is the Slauson Six, there is no way to make those folks feel better. I'm certain they all believe in Christ. And I know I'm certain, and the reason I'm certain, honestly, is because they're Black. Everybody was Black involved. And this loss probably put people at an all-time low where they had no choice but to believe in Christ. Because ain't nothing else gonna fix it. Ain't nothing else gonna make it right. And I was talking to my aunt the other day, and she was telling me how she, when she lost someone very near and dear to her, she wasn't able to say goodbye. And I want to offer to the families of the Slauson Six the same truth that I offered my aunt that day. Because it's true. If you weren't able to say goodbye, you won't be able to say goodbye. But take comfort in knowing that there is an opportunity to say hello again. He may not make it right while you're on earth. If you're lucky like me, you'll have dreams about your loved ones and you'll be able to interact with them on a regular basis. But if not, he'll make it right. There's an opportunity to say hello again. There's an opportunity to fill that void, and people will come your way. And here's the thing, when I say make it right, it doesn't necessarily mean Nicole will go to jail for 40 years. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. I don't know. After this conversation, I kind of want to stop following the case, and let God be God of it, So when I say make it right, it may not look like 40 years in prison, or it may, but that even with that, you won't feel good. Here's what'll make you feel good. God will send people your way. People you don't even know. They'll say something that your loved one used to say. This happened to me the other day. I was walking and I smelled something. Now, here's the thing. I'll be honest. I didn't like the smell. It was the smell of Winston-Salem cigarettes. I despise the smell of cigarettes, especially the Winston-Salem. Was it Winston-Salem? Newports. It was the green and white box, the long ones. Anyway, I'm walking, getting my workout on, minding my business like I always do. And I smelled it and I was like, ugh, like this, who is that? Like the car rolled so fast. I was just like, that is disgusting. But it reminded me of a loved one. My grandpa, he smoked cigarettes all the time. I hated the smell of cigarettes, but that little moment reminded me of him, and I instantly went to like our last conversation, where he told me to, go to college, make something of myself. And it was so random because he never talked like that. Little did I know that would be our last conversation. So, to the family of the Slauson Six, family and friends, I want to say just be on the lookout for those little moments. God will send them your way. And take a moment to just, even though like me, those cigarettes just made me want to like throw up. It also made me smile because I got to remember what I remember about my grandfather. So I'll leave you with this, fam. God got it. God got you. God got us. I'm messed up, homie. You messed up, but if God got us, then we gonna be all right. Perfect segue to the pairing for this episode. I want us to take a moment and listen to Kendrick Lamar's "All Right" because it don't feel good, but we gonna be all right. I believe that wholeheartedly. Thanks for listening. Until the next time. Peace.